Welcome back, everybody. It's Friday, which means it's time for another deep dive. And today we're looking into something that's been, I guess you could say, unsettling a lot of folks up and down the East Coast. And that's all these unexplained drone sightings. I mean, yeah, you've probably seen the headlines too. Hundreds of drones just popping up in some pretty sensitive spots. It's gotten attention from local officials all the way up to senators. And even the White House is weighing in, although their take is, we'll just say, a little different from everybody else. So what is the deal with these mystery drones? Are we talking about a bunch of harmless hobbyists, or is this something more organized, maybe even something to be concerned about? That's what we're going to try to figure out today. So let's unpack all of this with our expert and see if we can shed some light on this.
Well, you know what's really got everyone's attention is just how many sightings there are and how coordinated they seem to be. In New Jersey alone, there's been reports of anywhere from 4 to 180 drones in a single night. And it's not like they're just randomly flying around. They seem to be focused around key areas like reservoirs and military bases, which, yeah, that's definitely got people on edge.
Oh, for sure. I mean, that's not your average drone hobbyist out for a little nighttime flight.
Yeah.
What else makes these sightings so strange?
Well, it's the consistency and the patterns that are really unusual. For example, Assemblywoman Dawn Fantasia from New Jersey, she was at a closed-door meeting about these sightings, and a handout from the Department of Homeland Security from that meeting, it revealed something pretty interesting. Even with all these reports, there's still no specific or credible threat that's been identified.
Okay, so that's kind of a head-scratcher, isn't it? Hundreds of drones focused on important areas, but no clear threat yet. It's like another piece of this puzzle we're trying to put together.
It definitely adds another layer, and then you've got this screen grab going around from a video that was supposedly taken on November 30th. It looks like it shows a bunch of drones, but ABC News hasn't confirmed if it's real or not, but it does add to all the mystery and unease around this whole thing.
All right, so we've got unexplained drones, concentrated sightings, and no real answers yet. How are officials reacting to all of this?
Well, the reactions have been all over the place. Some officials are demanding action and they want answers, while the White House, they seem to be downplaying it, saying a lot of these sightings are probably just people mistaking manned aircraft for drones. It's like two totally different stories happening at the same time.
Yeah, it's a weird contrast. On one side, you have senators wanting FBI briefings, a New Jersey state senator even suggesting a limited state of emergency, and local officials wanting full-blown investigations. And you have the White House basically saying, don't worry about it, it's probably nothing.
Yeah, and the people who are actually seeing these drones, they're pushing back pretty hard. Like the mayor of Mine Hill, New Jersey, he straight up challenged the White House, saying they should come see the drones for themselves.
It's like he's saying, come take a look before you dismiss it all.
Yeah.
He's not buying that misidentified planes idea, and I bet a lot of other people who've seen these drones feel the same way.
Exactly. And the way other officials are reacting just shows how serious this is. You have the New Jersey governor demanding answers from the FBI and the House Speaker getting a classified briefing on this whole thing. It's clear that people are getting more and more concerned.
Okay, so we've got a lot of anxiety and a lot of questions that need answers, but what about explanations? Has anyone even tried to guess who or what is behind these drones?
Well, there are definitely theories floating around, some believable and some pretty out there. Representative Jeff Van Drew from New Jersey, he first said these drones could be coming from some kind of Iranian mothership off the East Coast, but the Pentagon quickly shut that down.
An Iranian mothership? It sounds like something out of a movie.
Right. And the Pentagon has been very clear. They say there's no sign of any foreign involvement or any hostile activity. It's not us, and it's not some other country either. That's basically what they're saying.
So that leaves us with even more questions. If it's not the U.S. and it's not another country, then who or what is controlling these drones and what are they trying to do? This is getting more and more confusing.
Well, the good news is the FBI is investigating, and they're asking anyone with information to come forward. The FAA has even gone as far as put flight restrictions over certain areas because of all this drone activity.
So they're not just brushing it off as some kind of mass hysteria.
Definitely not. They're taking this very seriously. Even the U.S. Northern Command is monitoring the situation, and they're ready to help if they need to.
Wow. So everyone's on high alert, keeping a close eye on what's happening. But we're still left with that main question, who or what is behind these drones and what are they doing?
That's the big mystery. The fact that we don't know who's doing this or why just makes it even more unsettling. And to even try to figure out the possibilities, we need to understand what these drones can actually do. What are they capable of? How has this technology changed?
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
Let's take a step back and look at that. What can these drones do? Because if we want to understand what's going on, we need to understand the technology itself.
When we talk about what drones can do, I think it's important to realize just how far this technology has come. What might surprise you is all the different things these machines can actually do. It goes way beyond just taking pictures, which is what most people think of.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, when they hear drones, they picture those little ones you see in parks, the ones that are taking shaky videos. Is that image kind of outdated now?
Yeah, I'd say so. Drone tech has come a long way in the last few years. They've
Yeah.
become really sophisticated machines that can do some pretty impressive stuff. We're not just talking about hobbies anymore. We're talking about surveillance, data collection, even delivery.
Delivery? Wait, you mean like ordering food and having a drone drop it off at my house? I thought that was still years away.
Not really. Companies like Amazon and Google, they're already testing drone delivery services. It's not everywhere yet, but it's definitely starting to happen.
So instead of hearing the doorbell, I might hear the buzzing of a drone. That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
But let's get back to some of the more, I guess you could say, concerning capabilities. You mentioned surveillance earlier, and that's kind of what jumps to mind with all these mystery drone sightings.
Absolutely. Surveillance is a huge part of drone technology these days. With high-resolution cameras, they can capture incredibly detailed images and video from way up high.
And I'm guessing they can do this from pretty far away too, right? Not like those old security cameras you see in parking lots.
Exactly. Range is a big advantage. A lot of these drones can fly themselves, they can follow pre-programmed flight paths, or even track specific targets. They're super maneuverable, and they can cover a lot of ground, which makes them really good for surveillance.
So now we're talking about flying robots with high-def cameras that can potentially follow you around. Okay, that's starting to sound less like cool tech and more like something out of a spy movie. It definitely makes you think about privacy and security in public.
It's a valid concern, and it goes beyond just cameras.
Yeah.
Drones can have all sorts of sensors on them that can detect things like heat signatures, radiation levels, even changes in the air.
Wait, so they can basically sniff out what's in the air. That's getting into some serious spy tech territory.
It is, and the data collection capabilities are getting better all the time. Drones are being used to create detailed 3D maps, monitor traffic, inspect infrastructure for damage, you name it. The list goes on and on.
So it's way more than just cameras in the sky. These drones are basically like flying data centers with potential uses we probably don't even know about yet. How does all this connect back to those mysterious drone sightings we talked about?
Yeah.
Could these capabilities have something to do with why we're seeing all these drones?
That's the big question, isn't it? We know they can do all this stuff. We understand the technology, but we're still missing a crucial piece. What are these particular drones actually doing?
It's like we have the blueprint, but we can't figure out what the final building is supposed to look like. We've got the tech, we've got the sightings, but we don't know the motive or who's behind it.
Exactly, and that's what makes this so unsettling. The possibilities are huge, and without knowing who's controlling these drones and what their goals are, we're left with a lot of different scenarios, some scarier than others.
Let's play that out for a minute. Let's say hypothetically these drones are being controlled by someone who wants to do harm. What could they realistically do with this technology? I think it's important to separate potential harm from potential disruption.
Good point. Let's start with potential harm. Depending on what they're carrying, a drone could theoretically be used to transport dangerous materials, or in a worst-case scenario, even small explosives.
That's a scary thought.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing it's not that simple to turn a drone into a weapon, right?
No, it's not easy. But it's not impossible either, and that's something law enforcement and security agencies are very aware of.
So it's a legitimate worry, even if it's not the most likely scenario. What about the disruption angle? Could these drones cause chaos and problems even without carrying anything dangerous?
The potential for disruption is huge. Imagine a swarm of drones targeting a major airport, causing delays and cancellations, or even shutting down a power grid leading to blackouts. The chaos and economic damage could be massive.
That reminds me of what happened at Gatwick Airport a few years ago, when just one drone shut down the whole airport, caused huge delays. Thousands of people were stranded. Just one drone caused all that chaos.
Exactly. That shows you how much disruption even a simple drone can cause. Now imagine a coordinated attack with dozens or even hundreds of drones hitting multiple important systems at the same time. The possibility of widespread disruption is a very real threat.
Okay, those scenarios are pretty disturbing. But it's important to remember, we're still just speculating here. We don't actually know who's behind these drones or what they're trying to do. We need to be careful about jumping to conclusions.
You're absolutely right. We have to stick to the facts, but we also need to be aware of what these drones are capable of.
That's what makes this whole thing so fascinating, don't you think? The mix of unexplained events, advanced technology, and all these unknowns, It's both intriguing and a little bit scary.
It is. It makes you think about the future of security and privacy in our airspace. If these drones are really unidentified and we don't know what they're doing, what does that say about how vulnerable we are in this new world of technology?
That's a question we're thinking about. We tend to think of drones as these harmless gadgets, but this whole situation challenges that idea. It shows us how this technology can be used for both good and bad. So we've talked about a lot in this deep dive, the weird drone sightings themselves and all the things this technology can do and how fast it's changing. Where do we even go from here? What have we learned from all of this?
Well, it's pretty obvious that this whole thing is far from over. We've got a mystery on our hands, some serious technology involved, and a ton of questions that need answers. But even with all that uncertainty, there are some really important takeaways here.
Yeah, it feels like we're standing on the edge of something big.
Hmm.
Like something's about to happen, but we can't quite see what it is. It's exciting and kind of creepy all at the same time.
I know what you mean. This isn't just a few random incidents. We're seeing a pattern here, and it's got the attention of some very important people. It's not just local cops who are concerned. We're talking senators asking for briefings, governors launching investigations, even the House Speaker is involved. It's pretty clear that everyone's taking this seriously.
And they should. The idea of all these drones, especially near places like power plants and military bases, it's not something you can just brush aside.
Exactly. So let's try to sum up what we know. We've got a bunch of unexplained drone sightings, mostly along the East Coast. These drones seem to be working together and they're showing up near critical infrastructure, which, yeah, that makes you wonder what they're up to.
And then you've got all the different reactions from officials. Some are demanding answers and action, while others are saying it's no big deal. The White House seems to think it's mostly people mistaking regular planes for drones, but the people who are actually seeing these things, they're not buying it.
Right. And all the theories people are coming up with just add to the confusion. That whole Iranian mothership idea got shut down pretty fast. We still don't know who's behind these drones or what they want.
That's the heart of the mystery, isn't it? Without knowing who's doing this or why, it's impossible to say how serious of a threat it is. But we do know that the FBI is investigating. The FAA is restricting airspace in some areas, and the U.S. Northern Command is watching things closely.
And all that activity, all those resources being used, it shows you that people are really worried, even if we don't have all the answers. So what does this mean for our listeners? Why should they care about all of this?
That's the million-dollar question. What are the key takeaways, and why does this matter in the big picture?
Well, I think there are a few really important things to remember. First, this whole situation shows us how fast drone technology is changing and how it can be used for both good and bad. It reminds us that technology is a powerful tool, and in the wrong hands, it can be dangerous.
Yeah, we tend to think of drones as just these cool toys for taking pictures or flying around, but they can do so much more. This is like a wake-up call. It's telling us that we need to understand what these new technologies can really do.
Exactly. The second takeaway is that we need to be open and honest about all this new tech. As drones get more advanced and easier to get, we need clear rules and regulations to make sure they're used responsibly and to prevent any potential problems.
That's a good point. We can't just ignore the bad stuff or hope that it'll all work out on its own. We need to talk about the risks and be prepared.
And lastly, this whole story reminds us that the world is getting more complicated and unpredictable all the time. New threats are always popping up, and we need to be ready for them. We need to be able to adapt and stay alert.
I totally agree. This shows us that we need to be thinking ahead, trying to anticipate what problems might come up and being ready to adjust to this new world of technology.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a question to think about. What do you think all these drone sightings mean for the future of security and privacy in our airspace?
It's a question that deserves some serious thought. The possibilities are huge, the potential impact is massive, and the story's not over yet. We'll keep an eye on things and bring you any updates as they come along. Thanks for joining us on this journey into the unknown. Keep asking questions, stay informed, and maybe look up at the sky every now and then.